towards the Dolomites there. They live in the village. You got to walk into it. The buildings and ruins there are older than Stonehenge. And they're living in the same structures, beautiful structures they've been living in with centuries. And where I grew up here in the States, it just keeps turning over as far as buildings that were built when I was a kid are now, abandoned and unkept and new ones on top. And
Mhm.
Okay, we're
Indeed.
live, guys.
okay, no more echo.
No, I think we're good. And we're here with Martin Liedtke. This has been a long time coming. I was telling Martin, I've been watching his show, his streams since, God, 2017. I think you and Levy were the first two channels that I really got into with Tartaria.
Yeah.
And yeah, you coined the term AntiqueTech, which is,
Really?
and I definitely adopted that right away. I started using that. I'm like, that term makes so much sense. I love
Yeah,
it.
man.
But yeah,
Catch
I'm going to
words.
hit record and fire this up. Really looking forward to this. Thanks for spending some time with us today, Martin.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me. Really excited. High fives.
High vibes always here at Alfacast.
Yes.
We're half
So we
fast.
do.
We're half full guys. Here we go. Hit record.
Just keep your blunt under the desk there, Mike.
Oh, do you see the smoke? I only vape, no smoke, bro. Okay. And boom, we're back for another episode of Alfacast. I'm Mike Winter, and I'm here as always with the illumined Dr. Bear Paul Lando. I'm wearing an old school AV hat here, Bear. We got to get some new merch up on the site.
Yeah, we'll get the merch once we get all our new stuff, out on the site and everything. We've been busy. Then we'll do the whole complete merch line, which is going to be really cool.
And our
We'll
whole
make it
Trump,
like
our whole Trump
Bride and
merch,
Sold.
our whole Trump merch
Yeah.
line too, right?
Well, we're gonna have the Alfa Vedic version of Future Heretics. So we'll have Bryden bring all those classics back.
Oh yes, I am very much looking forward to that. And yeah, I was just making a silly joke about Trump as we are entering the new era of Trump 2.0. Bear, did you get all your Trump flags off your car now? Off your truck?
Actually, I had Hillary signs out in my front lawn. Wasn't she
Classic.
running again?
We enjoy the show, definitely. And yeah, we're looking forward to getting some killer merch back up. Bryden, your son, my good friend, he's got a wit about him when it comes to putting graphics on tees. And definitely the reptilian shirt that he put out a decade ago always got some good laughs. That being the last four presidents with shift shaping.
Christians Against Gluten is also an old-time favorite, and or What Would Wolves Do? There's so many great ones.
Yeah, the Christians Against Gluten is a classic. We all need our cause. Well, we got Martin Liedtke here, Flat Earth British YouTube channel on with us today. I'm excited for us to delve deep into the post-reset reality matrix, as we're calling this show. But what's great about Martin's work is not only does it set a foundation for great discovery on what possibly is and what possibly was, but it opens up so many channels around how we can apply this to our daily life and really see beyond the construct that the public is put out in front of us. So we'll have a good one today. We are releasing new 0 Point Gold products this week with the 0 Point Gold Matrix one. That one looks awesome, Bear. We just released that, and that has a bunch of sea vegetables in it and really an incredible formulation. You can go check that out on our website. Exciting one there, Bear. I can't wait to get my hands on that one, actually.
Yeah, and I thought it was appropriate to release that one with a newsletter for this show since we're talking about the Matrix. So we just happen to have a product, a new one called Matrix. It's the ultimate mineralization tonic, and we'll save the infomercial for you guys can just go read about it on our website. One of a kind products, and if I do say so myself, the best things on the planet you won't find anywhere else.
You're here. So yeah, and go to alfavedic.com, check that out. That's actually how we fund ourselves. As you notice, we don't have third-party ads on our podcast. We don't have ads turned on YouTube or any of the Rumble or anything. We like to keep it fresh and clean and easy for you guys to enjoy our content. And then, yeah, if you want to buy our products, awesome. That helps us out. It will help you out too,
And
because
a
they're
lot of our ingredients we actually grow, and things we can't grow here ourselves, we get in neighboring farms here in eastern southern Oregon. So we're really homegrown, and our whole mission statement is to have self-sufficient neighborhoods with little small farms like ourselves, filling a certain niche and true decentralization. A lot of people are talking about it. We're doing it.
beautiful. And on that note, I think that's a great solution for where we're headed with this talk today. And I can't wait to dive deeper in this with good old Martin Liedtke. The proverbial glitch in the matrix is no longer a sci-fi phenomenon, discernible only to the unfettered vision of the freedom fighters aboard the Nebuchadnezzar. What we have been taught is no longer congruous with our experience, and the fissures in the historical narrative have become transparently obvious to an awakening humanity. On this Alfacast, we further delve into the origins and nature of this earth realm with Martin Liedtke, one of the early pioneers of the online truther movement. Since 2014, Martin has been dropping truth bombs on his well-received YouTube channels and coined the now popular phrase AntiqueTech. This idea of free energy technology that is quite organic and analog from the old world. He's a published author who has recently toured the USA and the UK, speaking at conventions on the subject of mud floods, Tartaria, and a cyclical reset of civilization. Martin's personal journey began as an archaeologist and historical researcher, but his digging both figuratively and literally at ancient sites unearthed more questions than answers. Rather than accept the narrative presented, Martin began to pose questions of his own as he explored the old photographs, historical accounts, records, and other data points from the not so far past. Martin's work offers us an alternative view of our historical roots, which are more fantastically mysterious than we'd ever know. It's a history that reveals concrete proof that we're living on a flat plane. His findings consistently challenge the accepted format we've been spoon-fed since birth, and each of his revelations encourages us to open our own eyes to start our own quest for truth. In his books, The Holy Grail of the Great Reset and The Holy Grail of Our Flat Earth, Martin probes the historic timeline and delves deep into the cavernous lies that had been embedded in our minds as fact. Great write-up, Bear. Take it away, my friend.
Okay. Hey, Martin, welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us. Big fan of your work. And, you know, I'd say the most frequent recurring theme we'll say on our podcast is exactly your subject matter. Just what's the true nature of our realm? What's our historical roots? One thing we can all agree on, I think, is everything we've been told is a bunch of horse shit. So we love having people like yourself on to tell us what's really up. We started as a health and wellness channel just because of our background in medicinal herb farming and biotrain medicine. And so people often wonder why we get off into these, what they would maybe consider fringe topics. And in my practice, I understood that if people didn't really have a good sense of self, which begins with who are we, where did we come from, then they become more prone to physical ailments in the body. And what I really like to delve into more the architecture, all the things that we relate to as far as civilizations of the past, Tartaria, whatever you want to call them. They all have this common thread as far as just much more advanced than what we consider our abilities these days. But what I really like to delve into more, and what I like about your work, is that you get more into the people and the possibilities of the people that lived in those times. And my practice, for instance, I did labs on everybody, what allowed me to mathematically change the chemical findings into electrical findings. And the point of this is that when that electrical line of resistance was of a certain nature, then people got better. So we looked at that, in that way rather than chemistry. And we also knew that if their line of resistance was far enough in the right direction, they really didn't even need to eat food. And to a certain point, there would be no excuse for the body to really physically age. So I just want to use that, in reference to some of your talks where you speak on, these people back then seemed to, maybe they didn't have sewer systems.
Toilets.
Did they eat food? What's the deal now? And my work, we actually proved that the physical body is not meant to age, and we know exactly why it does. So what was different about those folks, if you don't mind just kind of jumping right into that, and then we can, riff off of that with anywhere you want to go. But what was different about the folks? What were the conditions that were maybe conducive to allowing them to live a much higher quality life? And welcome. Thanks again for being with us, Martin.
Oh, thank you, Barry. That was a really good introduction. I'm really stoked about that. Thank you so much. Made me sound so good. Thanks. Well, I think this subject is the one that is the most truthful, actually, because if you look into the book 1984, it starts with, okay, he who controls the past controls the future. And they explain clearly in that book how they real time rewrite history. Now they're doing that now, okay? They've changed Roald Dahl books. They're changing books. They're changing books real time. They're changing the unofficial narratives. Now, in the current day, apparently, according to the British government, to own or to show the book 1984 could be classed as a terrorist act. It's come to that in Britain. Now, concerning previous civilizations, they do have one thing all in common. You're quite right. They reached this peak of what they call technology, and every single one of them get wiped out or eradicated from history. So we found residue of Tartaria, or a civilization that is akin to Tartaria. We haven't got any other name for it, but it was super advanced in different technologies. I think the atmosphere was a lot different back then. I think that it was based on, if you follow Jason, Jason Archaics, he talks about a post-canopy period of a thicker, more glutinous liquid medium that we're in. Which would prompt resonation technologies and implosion technologies rather than explosion technologies that are used now. So they nailed it, and it's really simple. And as you said, it's holistic. And the idea was, I really don't think people were dying because, I've shown endless images of churches, or what they call churches, were attributed to being something to do with religion. And there's no dead, there's no graveyards. There should have been billions that went before us. So where are they all? Are they all mixed in with the mud? Because they're not here. Because if you go into any, city cemeteries, the oldest you're going to find, if you're really lucky, or you're in Glasgow, in Edinburgh, in Scotland, for example, is you'll find something from the 1700s. Now, I find it really, really weird that we know hardly anything about people that lived as little as 100 years ago. People of the Edwardian period in the First World War, we know nothing about these people, except that they didn't just nip off to the local pharmacy when they wanted to get well, because they didn't really get ill. They had everything they needed. They grew everything and dried everything they needed because they had the knowledge. All the young ladies have knowledge as of today is doing suntans and nails. They're doomed when they need to get it together, which will come. So I really do think that we are this place. I don't want to undermine the whole of humanity by saying that we're just a slave class for this anomalous 1%, the Phoenicians, whoever they are, who I really do think there is an overseer, an overlord. And I really do feel like there's only a certain amount of players in here. But do I want to say the rest of humanity are just, working, sleeping, reproducing, retiring, and dying of an anomalous disease? So to me, where I've arrived at now, I think this, and I think it's fundamental, and I think it's super helpful for everybody who hears this. And it is this, that all is mind. And that's it. So anything that you put your focus on, because, you know, consciousness is a key word. It has been since the hippie movement, you know, and the hippie movement, as you know, all tied in with MK Ultra and everything else that they do with the experiment of humanity to see which way we go and which way we think, because, you know, it is all experiments on us. So I think that this place has, you know, qualities that are very akin to a computer. Okay, the layout of the structures of the cities, the old grid lines, you know, it's very much like we're, you know, inside a computer. Am I saying that that is what we are, some sort of holography? How, you know, how are we seeing reality? You know, is it projected, or is it all already there and we're just an active participant? Is it nothing to do with us? So I think consciousness is a key word that's been used, even though the word says conscience, consciousness says conscience. I feel that consciousness is chi, energy, prana, if you like, the all-pervasive prana that is here, okay, that we all feel. And I feel that if you direct that chi energy, yeah, to a certain coordinate, which we'll call an IP address, okay, which is what these churches were, because they were all put on specific nodal points on ley lines, okay, and with water courses running underneath, so they get the scale waves, they get the resonance, they're on a crossover point, yeah, just like, you know, they were hacking a giant computer, just like that. Yeah, so everything that we find in invention and in reality now is down to reinvention. It seems like the entire world just turned up post industrial revolution, apparently. Yeah, so everything just nothing, no industry, no technology of any sort. We were just horse and cart and wheel and spear for the whole of existence until we were apparently further back in caves or whatever. Right. Well, the evidence on the ground doesn't support that. There's overwhelming direct evidence that this place, yeah, got splattered. Something really bad, a cataclysm. How do I know? Because the whole of the classical world is shattered. Göbekli Tepe, if you go to any archaeological site, the Acropolis, I could just name 1,000 sites, sacred sites, Angkor Wat, although that is later, they say. But all of these share one thing. They're all left to rack and ruin, or they're all shattered by some sort of cataclysmic event. So I think that all of the classical world, what you call the classical world, I think is, you know, the Greeks is just a term for anyone in the Eastern Mediterranean. So that covers the Romans, that covers the Carthaginians, that covers Troy. So any of these people, and they all dress the same, they've all got the same thing going on. This is the classical world. So some great event happened that took out that. You know, Immanuel Felisovsky, he has his version of what took this out. Other people have proposed, you know, the Bible proposes Noah's flood, and there's other ideas, you know, the Epic of Gilgamesh, but it's in there, in our programmed into our reality. This place gets wiped out and everybody gets killed, and then there's just some survivors. Okay, so we reach a point now that only 120 years ago, okay, there was this great civilization. I can share screen and explain some of it to you now. That was based on sacred principles of mathematics, sacred geometry, okay? They were called living buildings. They breathed. The stone breathed. They paint over the stone in the modern day, so it doesn't breathe anymore. What happens? The stone underneath just flakes and just dries and just ruins. And they do it on purpose. It's part of this, you know, downturn in architecture. So with reinvention, they came into these churches. You may see one behind me here, okay? These places, you went into them, they were healing centers in the past. You had the organs going, which would heal you. They're good for your organs, the vibration, the resonance. You know about 532, you know, or 432 gigahertz healing and that. Well, they were very aware of this technologies, but it went a lot deeper than that because, as you said, breatharianism, you know, It seems like there was a symbiosis going on in the past, according to the alchemical depictions and Renaissance art, etc., that we were getting on with animals, not actually munching on them at all. There don't seem to be any toilets in Tartaria. This is certainly true. You know, the narrative of the Palace of Versailles having, you know, 2,400 rooms, but only one toilet for Louis XVI. So, and it had something like tens of thousands of visitors every day. So no one was apparently going to the toilet. And all of the massive Tartarian houses that are everywhere in Christendom, in the West, whatever you want to call it, they're all made with amazing architecture and no toilets. It was a shed at the end of the garden. We called them the Kazi in Britain, which was really, really weird in a country that's freezing cold and gets snow and wind, for you to leave your lovely warm house and traipse down to the end of the garden with a rat in the toilet, probably. So it doesn't ring true to me. So there's obviously something else going on, and obviously the food production thing as well. You know, the whole narrative, you know, the expansion of population through you know, agriculture developments like Jethro Tull and crop rotation of the 14th century, etc. And because of this crop rotation, humanity come on, and then we got all smart all of a sudden, and we all started building stuff, all because of agriculture. This is their narrative, guys, you know, and all of this has just happened since what, like in the last like 800 years or so.
Well, they also say, Martin, that people would just stick their ass out the top window and take a dump on the street.
Okay.
Right? Like
No.
everyone was just pooping out on the street. And
No.
I mean, it just seems like how did we have, you know, like this beautiful architecture that was supposedly being built and at that time, right, and the state fairs and all this stuff, and yet still people were taking dumps out on the street.
The evidence doesn't support that. I've gone through so many thousands of ancient depictions, ancient manuscripts and Renaissance and Flemish art, and none of it exhibits that. It's all a beautiful world. Everyone immaculately dressed in silks and fine jewels and fine clothes. It doesn't even seem to be a thing, poverty or anything like that. If you get up into the like the early 1900s, you see some poverty then in photographs, etc. But I noticed they hyperinflate it. I was watching an old King Kong movie, the one by Peter Jackson, the other night, and they showed Hooverville, and it was like a packed out in Central Park. Yeah, I've got photographs of Hooverville. There must have been half a dozen shacks. I thought, yeah, milk that. So they do this, the movies.
Well, and I think the novel too. I think the novel was like one of the original inventions to put forth the fake reality. Like I've been reading Dickens a lot, and Dickens' awesome portrayal is, you know, of London and stuff is what
Bleak House is not set in Cardiff. He was always a visitor, not set in London. He was a visitor to Cardiff regularly, and Bleak House was set in Cardiff, apparently. And that is one somber book.
Yeah, I haven't read that. I just finished David Copperfield, which is supposed
David
to be
Copperfield is brilliant, so inspiring. It's just one of the most beautiful works ever. Really,
it really is. But you know, that's supposedly based on some of his childhood working in the warehouse, and
yeah, I can.
And as he got older, he got more socialist and really trying to demean, you know, the societal rankings and aristocracy and all that. But yeah, you got to wonder, like, how do we have this? It never made sense to me that, I mean, it did make sense. People were getting sick from the industrialization and just the horrendous lifestyle that the average person had in the cities. But then how do we contrast that with just the beauty that was there as well? And so they would say that that's due to the elites, the elites that had the power and the ability to create this sort of architecture. And then everybody else was just these poor saps that were getting.
There's also accounts going back into Britain that was a place of great enlightenment, and people from all over the world sent their offspring there to attend the universities and so forth. Yeah. There's even accounts of the Nazarene journeying back and forth, you know, between, you know, the Middle East and Great Britain. So yeah, two totally different accounts. And we'll go ahead with what you were talking about. I have some questions relative to the nature of the realm and possibly how certain alterations in, for instance, the vapor canopy and so forth, you know, were the beginning of some of the things, the downturn of humanity. And I'd like to get your thoughts as far as what that really means and how that occurred in the first place. And you can also draw some corollaries between the original vapor canopy of the realm and our own personal little cocoons that we have around each of our biological apparatus, and both large and small seems like along the way was rendered with different imperfections so that we no longer had that protective canopy, either personally or in the entire realm. So
I would
I'm
agree with
just
that,
making
yeah.
the case of the old alchemist, as above, so below. You cannot have changes in one. I believe it changed with us individually, which then created a collective phenomena that then created the alteration of the realm. But I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Right.
A
I
simple
think,
question, right?
well, it's just such a deep question, but I really do think all is mind, and I think that the people of the past knew how this place worked. Now it's like a 33, apparently a Masonic secret. The people at the top know this, but the people in the truther community, they've been at it and researching like tirelessly, and they've been doing their due diligence, and they're finding this stuff out for themselves. That it is us, and we are super powerful. And I really do think, they give us the narrative that there are only two things certain in this life: taxes and death. Who said that? I think it was Walt Whitman or Mark Twain, when Mark Twain said that. And
It
that's
was
what they
Mark
want us to
Twain.
believe. And any of these snippets they give us concerning, the miasmic affair of the 1880s, apparently the Thames was so stinking that it was causing all these illnesses and that. But well, really, I've got books from this era, and that's not the case. If you look into it, there was a cholera outbreak because of Snow's famous well, and he apparently identified it and saved loads of people. And they bang on about this with every National Geographic program on the subject, which gives a high level of doubt that any of this actually took place. No, there were slums, and there always been, slums and bad areas in these large cities, especially London. But it was the most affluent and the richest city on earth for quite some time during its empire. All of this fell apart, after the First and the Second World War. Everything was sold down the river. And then this really weird, the thing that's going on now with the corporates taking over and all of that was uninspected, and BlackRock, etc. All of that was really, and I didn't have no plan in my consciousness for that. I didn't know all of that was going to happen. But
Well, and most
what
of
I'm
London now,
finding,
isn't most of London just foreigners now come
well,
in,
I'll
or
get to that, right?
Saudi
So
princes and
yeah, you can't go on public transport. If you're an old school Brit like me, I grew up in a racist society. My mother was like tirelessly racist. It was embarrassing, actually, but that was the way British people were, and it was the television as well. Programs like From Death Till Us Do Us Part or Love Thy Neighbor. Proper. You wouldn't
I
be able
think
to.
that was I think that's similar in every culture.
For sure.
Uh,
Things it's more. It was
Yeah,
like that.
nobody
Yeah.
has a patent on racism. We just all tend to gravitate to our own and what's familiar.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily based on hatred either.
Well, it wasn't. And, all my gang, when I was in school, they were half blacks, half whites. We all hung around together. We love the blacks, and we do in Britain. We love them. And they are. And there's nothing more British than an Indian person. So we like them too, Pakistanis, and that we're good with them. But something else happened then. Like in the last year, it's noticeable. Like everyone is on about it. It's just like, just these young men, all like Nike trainers, all lovely clothes. They're all put up in hotels, and they've got money, and they're setting up all like, farms and doing this and doing that. And they're just like all illegal. And there's been like a million of them just turned up. So the people of Britain are in shock right now. It's just, my God, but they're not worried about us, because the older people are going to end up just snuffing it and dying anyway. It's about the workforce, isn't it? And the population.
well, it's
is
like
definitely...
this interesting though parallel. So this great replacement theory, right? This is all intended, but did we have that 100 years ago?
Well, I'm finding that the scaremongering and the propaganda of 100 years ago from a newspaper that I've got is identical to now. They're dealing with migration problems in 1890s. So their main concerns is health, migration problems, people coming into the country. It's exactly the same narratives. Nothing new is under the sun. But now we've reached this juncture because of this new technology, this early days, and we're just getting to, just getting an idea of what's coming with it all. And that is really, really like, whoa, what are we going to do now? And we don't want to be enslaved by it, that's for sure. But, the phone is king at the moment, isn't it? The iPhone is king. But yeah, going back to who we are. Now, I think that the Tartarians are the people of this golden era. All of the civilizations had a golden era. The old kingdom, they say, of Egypt, it fell into demise, but it went through a golden era, they say, of great technological advancements, etc. And then something happened. They say usually the usual narrative is infighting or some sort of, plagues, events, whatever. But you find this for the Hittites, you find this for the Indus Valley civilization, you find this for all the same narrative for all the civilizations. They all reach a golden era, and then something apocalyptic happens and they disappear, all of them. And we're no different. We're exactly the same. We're boasting now that we've reached the pinnacle. We're really clever. We're sending rockets up to space, and we've got all of this really clever AI, artificial intelligence. And look what we've done. And they're basking in the glory of their technological know-how, but they're not. It's infancy. I can see the way this is going. We have come so far away from who we were. If you look in the book 1984, although it's understated, Winston, the main player in it, he remembers how it was in the past, and that's how I am now. I'm remembering the 1980s and the 70s, how free we were, how the kids run free and just didn't worry about anything. And all of the weirdness that has happened in the world now is just so much completely different world to what I grew up in. And that will be the same again in another 20 years, and that is it. It's change that is I'm finding difficult myself to cope with, especially being an old Brit and seeing my country go down a sewer and I can't do nothing about it, seemingly. But I was in the camp of saving humanity, guys, right? And then when 2020 happened, and all of that, I was like, wow, traitors to humanity. I just turned my back on you all. That's literally what happened to me. Everything changed in my mind about it all. I was like, whoa, they're really, really cowardly, aren't they? So, but like in that sketch you see on the film with basically, Tommy Lee Jones is talking to Will Smith, and he talks about the shape of the earth and everything, but he says people are scared, nervous, gullible people. And if they will panic easy. So they have to be given a lie that is bite-sized, that they don't go off. If we find out our full potential, can you imagine this place? If everybody knew its full potential, and you can be what you want to be. If you look into the ancient arc record, guys, what are people doing with their everyday life is they're doing what they want to do. So it's music, it's the arts, it's walks, it's lolling about, it's doing more creative things that you want to do, instead of giving your energy all away to them to do whatever they want you to do, which is what the education system, as we all know, is for, and all of these programs to train you for the workplace so you can earn money. And if you're useless and you're not working business model, you'll be chucked on the trash pile, because the streets are full of them people, aren't they? They're just, and nothing is going to help them. And whatever's happening in America.
Shouldn't we all pay our fair share, though?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we do. I know.
No, that was I was being facetious. That's the saying we have.
Yeah, I'm
when we point out that taxes, sorry, I was just here. Those of us that don't believe in theft by taxation, we always get the argument back about paying your fair share. So anyway, sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
Well, I would agree with that, and sovereignty and everything else. But, and a lot of people I know are in the free man movement, and I've been into conventions with them. But I found everyone that invested their time and went down that road literally lost everything. And then ends up in a muddy field somewhere, wishing that they had their house still. This has happened over and again. So, it's each to their own. But again, it's perspective. It's where you put your energy, isn't it? So, I try not to, I never, yesterday I done a cooking program to keep everyone's mind off of the stage show that is the election. You can't even make it up. It looks like a Hollywood movie. It looks like a snippet out of Idiocracy, the movie, actually, when you see it all, unfolding. It's like, this is the real world. These are world leaders. Oh my God, it's a joke. It is a joke. But yeah, if going back to, if we, we're more powerful than we know. And that is the whole, thing here. That is that we're giving our energy away to some entity through threats. Usually, they're called bills, and everything else. But yeah, everyone gives their energy away because they feel they have to, instead of keeping the energy for themselves and then doing what they want to do. I know it sounds selfish, doesn't it? Wanting to do what your life wants to do instead of what somebody else wants you to do. Doesn't that sound selfish? But no, you've got to be selfish to even enjoy a little bit of this life. And that's what it is, guys, because they're just giving it all away through consent. So they don't have to. If there was a great, upheaval of everyone realized this truth that they don't have to do, and they actually got tricked, or you don't have to pay taxes, because basically that's just, and councils and everything that goes on in Britain, there's no basis for that existence in anywhere. They just made it all up. So nobody really has to do any of that, obviously, but they just, terrorized into actually doing it. But yeah, so I think that if everyone knew what they were and practiced what I do, basically, if I float off in my mind to wasteful fantasy, wasteful imagination, which is not enjoyable or good, or violent thoughts, or we should blow that up thoughts, or anything like that, I create a big mental stop sign in my consciousness, in my mind. Stop, like that. I can even see what it looks like. It's rusty and it's red. And it works because where I was going and where I was sending my intent and my energy completely disappears. And then I'm back to focusing on the job at hand, what I want to do. And what I'm doing is truthing. That's what I want to do more than anything, is this field, this truther community, which I feel is so worthy. And I feel we just come so far in this, it's just absolutely the most fantastic thing that I've ever experienced. But, and YouTube is awesome. That's another thing I've done as well, is I won't vocalize dislike for anything. Even if I do have some dislikes for something, I wouldn't verbalize them, yeah? Because it's basically this thing, it's this reality, whatever it is, it seems to take notes.
Well,
And
that's a
anything
great spiritual teaching right there. Like cynicism,
yeah.
discord, negativity. Whenever you put that out, usually that's your ego needing to be heard, your inner child. And what does that do? That writes the script for you, right, Bear? I mean, that's like Ascended Master Teaching 101 right there.
Well, yeah, but what I feel is I haven't only till recently, and I don't know if it's previous lives and previous lives that I got to this point or I've got beyond. I do not know, but I feel that I had this voice, or the inner me, saying to me, why don't you just stop messing around, Maz? Like, why don't you just do it properly? Just get your and everything just fell into place, and I just started to feel really honed and empowered. And outside of ego, bro. I mean, I was just like me. It's like, I'm not satisfying that, so that doesn't matter. I'm just going to be humble because that doesn't matter. Yeah. And I just been like that for just months of in a good mood and just going through the motions and intending what I actually want to do with this medium and this thing. So and setting my intent properly as well. Because I noticed that people are not specific. If they do think that they are manifesting anything in this reality, you've got to really police your thoughts, because you've got to be specific. Oh, I want a big farm with loads of animals. Boom, their hands up in your back garden. Oh, wow. I didn't really mean it right directly now. You've got to be really careful with what you say, and you have to be precise with what you say, because it really does take notes, whatever this thing is. Your dislikes, and if you put that out into this thing, it takes notes. So they seem to come back at you later as well. So I don't actually got any feelings of anger anymore. I did in my early years, literally just pure angry. about the state of, the state of the world, starving millions, the health service, what they do to people, and all of it just made me angry. Yeah, and wanting to be vengeful, want to get them
Martin,
back.
I feel like that's a kind of a stage of most Tartarian researchers go through, is the prison planet idea. I feel like, and then I've seen that happen, and then they kind of work through that and go, actually, no, you start to see the actual broader, bigger spiritual message that comes out of this, right?
But there's a lot of trappings with all of these, these conspiracies, if you want to call them that, or theories or ideas, because all right, flat Earth, okay, that come out and it was really exciting. That was the best thing that ever happened to me, yeah. But then instantly, there was a lot of people saying, no, yeah, it's just completely enclosed system, and that is exactly the same as what the globe believers believe. It's a completely enclosed system. Like there's nothing more anywhere else. Now, extraterrestrial means extra land. Okay, that's what it actually means, more land. I really do think this place is a lot bigger than what we think. Yeah, do I, what is above, what is below? I do not know. I do know this only ever, we're not probably never ever going to know. But it doesn't really matter.
Martin, what we our direction is that it's a functional realm.
Yes.
And it's a living technology, which you already mentioned. So the big takeaway for me personally is, how does it work? And would that be of any practical benefit to know how it works? I found personally that, studying the old alchemical texts, people like Walter Russell, they talk about the fact, they have different languaging. One, you're talking about waveform physics and how an idea or consciousness creates an electrical polarity and resonance, and it steps down. The old alchemists talk about it metaphorically, but we're all talking about the same thing, which is exactly what you're saying, is that it's all about mind. And then, of course, emotions are the things that really give things the steam, to pop in the matrix, or whatever you want to call it. So I think that's a big takeaway, rather than getting hung up on what shape it is. And I agree with you. I don't know which shape it is. I really don't care. I know that's heresy to a lot of flat earthers.
Well,
but,
I know
how do things work?
I had, I was like, is this MK Ultra? Because I'm having a physical response. Anybody that opposes my ideas, even though I haven't got no proof, but they haven't got no proof, but I'm not making the claims. And then I'd have this argument going on. I'd feel anxious. And literally, if someone says, oh, you retard flat earther, I would get my heart pounding, blood rushing to my head and go, right, I'm gonna get you. No, completely failed right there. So I don't do anything, or really anything like that anymore. This is where the Tartarians were at. They didn't really need to do all of that. These artworks coming out of the Flemish schools, or the Van Eycks, or some of these unbelievable pictures of the Renaissance period. You can't do that in the modern day. You just can't replicate that sort of quality in the modern day. They represent another time when people were healthy, happy, invigorated existences, not tied into slavery. They tell us that we were in the narrative. But like I said, guys, the history has changed real time. The history that's given to us is completely bogus. It's based on no reality whatsoever. Yeah, they don't want us to know that we had a golden civilization as little as 150, 160 years ago, when it was all taken out around the 1900 mark. And then there was some sort of weird schism around the 1902 mark. The books and everything went from a creative quality and brilliant handwriting to literally stylized, repeated Carnegie type information. Literally all at the same time around this 1902 mark. All of these, the changes in literature were profound. The changes in archaeology, the changes in the free energy, because we got evidence, what we think of these resonators and free energy devices that are all over antiquity up until 1900. All disappears because of the apparent Edison and Tesla idea. What they tell us happened for reality, which I don't buy either or, actually.
Martin, can you speak a little bit more on the Renaissance? Was that Is the accounts that we've been taught about that time period authentic, or is that another one of many psyops? What was going on back there?
Yeah, psyop, definitely a psyop. Well, they call it the Enlightenment. Apparently, we fell into some sort of what dark era, dark ages. We lost the technology of the classics, the Romans, whatever they call it. And then we fell into disrepair. The whole world just sort of plummeted. We had no technologies, nothing. And then we lifted ourselves out of that in this period of through the 11th to the 15th century. The Renaissance period started around late 1300s and ended 1600s. So it was like 300-year period. And it showed what the world really was. And the architecture was just sublime, big marble columns, everything just fantastic, yeah. So they did, manage to show that the world was like that and not ruined at that time. So going on that evidence right there, it would seem to me that there was some sort of not Noah flood level cataclysm, but there was some sort of cataclysm since the Renaissance period. Other YouTubers, John Levy mentions, he thinks it's somewhere in the 1700s. I definitely think something went on because of the records and everything don't exist. Records didn't exist till 1850, guys. Before then, parish churches with a bogus made-up religion. They're only occupied these buildings after finding them after a reset. I don't think so. The dead are missing. Yeah, where we got catacombs full of dead skeletons, under Paris. They say there's 18 million skeletons. They say that they all went in there in the 1700s, just like there's that many people apparently dying in the city that they put them underground. No, this is a reset. They put all of these bones underground. These people have just been genocided, wiped out in one way or another. And then what happens then is there's another population that comes into these cities, and it's happening now, real time, where I live. I'm in a place where my population is being replaced real time. Britain isn't a Caucasian country anymore, and that's the end of it. It's like a Muslim state. It really does feel like being in one. So everyone wants to just bug out and get away from Britain right now. Nobody likes it. I do, because I love it. I think it's brilliant, because that's what I'm doing with my reality. I'm going to embrace everything and just make the best of it. And I really think it's funky. I love Wales. It's awesome. We don't do anything like everybody else does. We do our own thing here in Wales. And we're not good at being told what to do. Although we are an occupied country, we're not good at being told what to do. So that's brilliant as well. That's Wales' saving grace. So going on that, it's an awesome place. So, but the realm is definitely falling to pieces, and the fall of consciousness is apparent. There's narratives out there that the sun's dying, and it has turned from a yellow to an LED, and the sun is definitely linked to whatever we are. It's the life giver, and maybe that's chi energy itself. Maybe that's the source for our, what you want to call consciousness, is that sun. Maybe it's projecting the whole thing. It looks like when an eclipse happens, because it looks like a movie shutter comes across, it resets it, and then there's a whole of reality being projected below. So there's that idea, just like the Truman Show. But I definitely think something's up with the weather, and I definitely think something's up with the hues. The colors are different, the light is different from when I grew up in, which tells me that, I thought, first of all, oh, all right, we're all dead, and they're running a VR, hoping no one will notice. All right, that might be a possibility. My other ideas were that they are running a VR. It's been a technology all along, and then these VRs are just VRs within VRs, and dreaming is a VR within a VR. And that's just you going through your databases, because I noticed that my mind works just like a computer. I go through filing systems, I put them in where they should be. I do all this in my dreams. I go through filing systems and think what I got to do next and all of that in my dreams. But if you had to keep all that data, I reckon it'd be too much to bring over into your awakened world. I think it'd probably collapse your paradigm, too much data. But I do still dream every night, and I still do remember them. So that's a player as well. What are dreams? So I feel that they're just an inner era, VR, and it does really feel like that. So years ago, when I was a teenager, I thought to myself, well, I'm affecting reality. I'm thinking stuff and it's literally happening. And I didn't understand any of this information, guys, but I understood that I was making things happen. And then I put it down to, at first, it's like, shit, I got magical powers. Don't tell anyone. Oh my God, what am I, a witch? What's going on with me? But I can make things happen. And I noticed that about myself. Other people noticed it too, that I literally could do magic, make things happen. I'm still doing it now to a greater extent, actually. So it was me, but when I was youthful, I was hedonistic. So I took it to extremes and I used it and abused it. And they come back and smacked me around karmically as I deserved. Naughty boy, which I deserved. I've been a victim of my own consequence many, many times, but I'm coming on good now later in life. I'm getting it right now, Barry. Hey, Barry, there's a town 5 miles from where I am now called Barry.
Ah,
Barry Island. What pope's from there?
is it spelt the same?
No, it's the Welsh version of Barry is Barri, and the English version is Barry. Yours is a completely, it's not a version I've even seen before. So I'll share some pictures if you like and do a little presentation, whiz through some for a bit. Do you fancy that?
That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Oh,
Love
okay.
that.
Well, and when you say Barry, I think of Barry Lyndon and that great work of art by Kubrick, and it makes me think that it was another form of Hollywood of him putting his artistry to display a type of historical reality of how it was back then.
Have you seen this, chaps?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, well, I'll start you and I'll whiz through some of this ideals and some of these thoughts with you. So I proposed, many moons ago now, that I thought that America wasn't the new world, but the old world. And I got these ideas from some early publications, Josiah Priest's American Antiquities, 1834, other books. That had evidence, like you mentioned earlier, Barry, about these great big ancient buildings that were just there from time immemorial. And you can ask some Americans, what's your heritage? Where did you come from originally? Which state? And they're like, well, I think we come from Arkansas way, but we're not actually sure where we all came from. It's like, no, because you were there already. I really do think that, the Bible, some of the places in there can be attributed to America and definitely ancient Egypt with Memphis and everything else. But this is Pyramid Lake, Upper California. As you can see, there was a giant pyramid. So, there is definitely existence of Sumer in America, North America, the Egyptians for sure, and other Asian cultures and civilizations. So they were there early on. Excuse me. Oh, why can't I just whiz through it? Excuse me. Okay, I should be able to whiz through. Let me just stop sharing a minute, guys, because it's not whizzing through. Is my directional behind you? Oh, there it is. So giants. Now, I definitely think, let me move that up a little bit. Giants were coexisting with us, guys. I really do think that. And here's an example of one of our overruling giants in the past. Check the architecture in the background. It looks a bit like Angkor Wat or what you see in India, but she's not an Indian, is she? She's a Caucasian. And no one seems to be where they're supposed to be. And no one knows where anyone is actually from, like these different races, the Chinese. They're absolutely nothing like us. Where did they come from? Just unbelievable that no one is supposed to be where they're from. And the origins, you mentioned the universities in Britain. Well, the first universities were the Moors universities in Toledo in Spain, and other cities in Spain had the first universities, they say, in the world. So the Moors influence, this Arab influence through France and through Spain, the Iberian Peninsula. Oh, shit. Excuse my language, fellas.
Well, we know going back to America too, there's a great tradition with the natives, oral tradition around giants. And
yes, there is.
There's stories about how there were these very volatile and aggressive giants that were here when they arrived, and they went to battle with them.
I should read that.
Yeah, there's some West Coast native traditions that talk about that, which is really interesting. And then they learned how to cohabitate for a while until slowly those giants were basically killed off. But that's the mounds, right? Then we have the burial mounds.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Mount City. Yeah, the mounds are unbelievable. Yeah, St. Louis used to be called Mount City, and they just literally flattened them, and they were giant mounds. I've got pictures of it happening. But yeah, these are ancient mounds, ancient buildings. But this is this architecture, if you can see here on the screen, guys, is what we attribute to the Tartarian style of architecture, and it is brimming with technology. So this is you know, an American street. You see these everywhere. But you'll see these lower windows where these big places have giant underground spaces. So I asked an architect why that would possibly be. And he said, oh, it was in vogue at the time. I said, what, in a place that floods and has snow and everything? That doesn't make any sense. He was like, and he literally just judged himself and thought, yeah, actually, that actually doesn't make any sense. So if you look at the top here, we have these anomalous things here and these anomalous things here on the apexes, and also here, and wires, and this wrought iron affair as well, which you're going to see all over the place. So all of this is a technology. We think it's basically energy gathering technology. So who controls the past controls the future, who controls the present controls the past. The words in 1984. And what we find, the spookiest thing of all, and if nobody can deny this, is the American city fires. It is so mind-blowing when you look into it and you find out. I can't believe the people that just years ago didn't go into this bigger, you know, on TV or anything. You know, it's an image of County Hall in San Francisco, giant, massive building with Greco-Romano columns and giant steel inlets inside and giant domes. 1906. 1906, in the time of Queen Victoria. So all major American cities around the same time, so around from 1850s up until 1910, all get eradicated. That is like all of them. It's hard to even imagine that it happened, but it did. It's like America, if nuclear weapons, which I don't think are a thing, were real, then it looked like you had a giant war. It looked like you had an advanced giant war. Is what it looks like. So the most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their understanding of their history. And that is precisely what has happened, guys. And they're doing it real time. It's happening now. I can clearly see it. Do you think these things here that look like spark plugs, yeah, do you think they were just for aesthetic purposes? When you actually step in there, guys, you know, what you call orgone effect, whatever you want to call it, resonation, would just permeate your being and you would feel fantastic. You would probably, you get some monks, okay, some Tibetan lamas, and they are in a state of ecstasy. I mean, they are just with buzz and just shivers right through them, and they are like it constantly. They are in constant elation. They are in constant spiritual bliss. Yeah. Why? Because they change their vibration. They understand. They get what this place is, and they adapt their mind according to what this place is. You've got to forget your notions of what you thought it was. You know, there's guidelines in the Matrix films. There's guidelines in 13th Floor. There's guidelines in the film Network. There's guideworks in the film, you know, 1984. And all of them, they tell you what this place is. And do you know why? Because in the rule set, they can't lie. They can't lie, guys. It's all there for us. It's all in plain sight. They put it there out for us to work it out for ourselves or not. As most people wouldn't, unless you had that intent to go and look for it for yourself.
And
so I think
some of this knowledge actually has persisted through, for instance, the Vedic system of architecture called Vastu, where just using simple geometry, they can create a resonance that will heal your body. And we're not even talking about in that system, all this more advanced architecture that we're looking at here, but just with simple geometry, amazing things can be accomplished.
Yep, the Veda got it, you know, these healing devices, you know, the Hermetics with Mercury with his caduceus, which is a resonation tool. You've got the Egyptians with the Jaded and the Ankh, which are vibrational qualities. Sumer had them, you know, you see evidence of them holding these Ankh type things, or a pineal gland device, just holding it out. I'm sure he's not passing anyone a pineal gland or an acorn or whatever. a pine cone. These things are some sort of device, you know, and you see them right the way through, and it is for that. You think of not the tricorder. What was that thing on Star Trek that would just heal you if you waved it about? The on Star Trek.
Bones. Dr. Bones, was that his name?
Yeah, Dr. Bones had this device. I think it was, and it would like you literally just wave it over you, and it would heal you. So let me just
My
talk
favorite, my favorite Star Trek episode is when they had the whale in space. I think it was number 4, their fourth Star Trek feature movie, and they're in a hospital in present time. They've come back from the future, and Bones is looking at this medical cart in a hospital with saws and drills and everything. He's saying, "My God, what are these people, barbarians?" So it was my favorite episode
I do remember
ever.
that actually.
Yeah.
Bones was Scottish, wasn't he? So
The best is
Yeah.
when people dress up as Star Trek characters and go to Renaissance fairs and pretend they're from the future.
well, this is what's
Oh,
this is
that's
what the
great.
place is.
But I think a point here of all this, right, is it's the understanding that we are the great technology and we're interfacing directly with this stuff.
So the buildings are based on us.
Yes.
Okay, so it's always microcosm to macrocosm.
Yeah,
you know, the
very
structure
hermetic,
of what the magnetic principles of this place are replicated in this architecture. And in domed buildings, it is exactly what they, you know, if this construct what we're in is artificial and man-made, then the buildings are a smaller version of it. And that's what I see. These things, the Gothic cathedrals, this is mind-blowing. Is it aesthetics or just for a look, or is it a part of technology? Well, we can think of electrostatic charge being higher up the potential as we go. So you can grab it the higher up you go. So they could be for that as well. But what I think is going on with these, okay, is these, what we call, this is a really scientific term here, guys, knobbly bits that you get, okay? You get knobbly bits. And what it does is, it creates spin. It creates spin of chi, okay? And what happens when you spin chi? It amplifies. It amplifies. And if you do that on a nodal point, or what I call an IP address, which is that cathedral, yeah, you become magical. Literally could manifest exactly what you want. But there are parameters, because the old ways of thinking were not about, oh, well, like, you know, a lot of people is, oh, I want loads of millions of pounds. And even if they had it, they would probably destroy themselves with it. That's not a good philosophy. It is people knew that they just needed energy. And funds, if they were a part of it, they would call it energy. Everything in this place is energy. And that is the way they would think about it in their experience, not turning it into something fake, you know, that is an entity, like, you know, the fiat currency, etc. Oh, excuse me, if I go on the wrong way, I have. So, no, I haven't. Yes, I have. Okay, so, these buildings here, they look like the Munsters, okay? They have a bit of a Baroque feel to them, a bit of Gothic. So the origins, you know, they could be thought of as, you know, European, Eastern European, or even further, like Tartaria or Russia, because these look exactly like the sort of architecture you might enjoy in the minarets of, say, Moscow. So what are they doing in America? So all of these are all over America, these buildings. I've seen so many examples of them on my travels to America. It just blew my mind to think, wow, they got the same here. And then they tell you that these buildings, oh no, these were built in 1890s. And then you check it out. And one thing in this field, I defy anyone to do it, guys, just do it for yourself. You never find photographs of any of these buildings, even the most important structures in antiquity, outside of the psyops of the Eiffel Tower and Statue of Liberty. I think all of them, you can't find any photos. You might find the odd blueprint for the Astor Hotel, for example, but something like this being built, apparently way within the age of photography, which is like the 1840s before it kicks off. Then you get all of these that are turned up, all of the world, yeah, so that's Australia, North America, all of Europe, all of everywhere else have got these buildings. They got these in India, in Mumbai, they got these in Singapore, they got these in Melbourne, and they got these in Philadelphia. It doesn't matter where you are, it's exactly the same building on exactly the same design. Almost as if there is one builder worldwide. Almost as if whoever's building all of these structures worldwide, that there was only one worldwide, I'm not even going to say government, or one worldwide peoples. Then something happened. This. So what you find is under the Phoenician facades, this building's in Belgium. It's a really lovely building, but they literally splattered and covered the whole of Tartaria with this stuff. Underneath will be a Tartarian building. If you strip all of this back, this facade, red brick every time. They not only took over history, they covered over history. And the rest, well, World War II, World War I, bombing campaigns. Okay, this is a coin exchange. This is American coin exchanges. They're in Ohio.
Wow.
This one's in Texas. This is a Moorish building. Why? They say that they're building for part of the expositions. Curiously enough, Trump announced that he's going to bring back the World's Fairs. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that?
So where is this building that we're looking at?
Dallas.
Wow.
Yeah, coin exchange. And not only that,
Martin,
they're
let me
all over
ask you,
America,
are
and they're
there,
still there now. Some of them are still there now. Some of them have giant swastikas on the front. And not because they're
so Martin,
fascist.
have you come across any oral accounts or accounts otherwise from so-called indigenous people before this, you know, the New World was supposedly conquered?
Yeah, sure. There's
Huh?
well, I've viewed like some interviews, like I said, mentioned that American Antiquities book by Josiah Priestley. He interviews some Hopi, he interviews some Cheyenne, and there was one village that he went to, and they were living in a giant stone enclosure. He said it was huge, and it was built with giant megalithic stones, and they were living inside it. They literally, their teepees were inside it. And he asked them, who built all of this stuff? And they said, oh no, all of this was here when we arrived. We've been here a long time. It's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just littering. And not only that, you know, the evidence of the maps, for example, I could show you a little bit here now, is that America, when you look on the, say, Theodore de Bray depictions, he's a Middle Ages photographer and artist who covered post-Columbus Cabot type adventures of America. And what he depicts is there's no Native Americans living in America in, say, 1492. None. They are Floridians. They are blue, because they got like belladonna or some sort of substance wiped on their skin, or grey. They have woolen hats on. They are all Caucasian, and they are approximately 7 foot tall. They're massive. And the women, they are all blonde or ginger. This is the population showed on countless guys. I could show you 3 or 4 de Bray separate books with hundreds of depictions in each, and they all show you exactly the same. Just look up de Bray images, and it will show you. It's just crazy. So yeah, the population. So when did the Native Americans show up exactly? You know, it's the whole. You know, they've given us this false narrative, and we keep trying to track our mind back to what we've learned in school or through the history books to try and pinpoint what's happening. When honestly, what I've done now is I've just discarded all that, like with the heliocentrism and everything else. It's like none of that actually is probably real. I should just discard that and just go with what I can find out. Yeah. And I
You
have
mean they
finding
didn't
this out.
hitchhike across the Bering Straits?
Well, again, I'll just talk about that. I'll show you a little bit of it in this little bit that I'm going to show you now in a minute. In a lot of the maps, the Cosmographia 1480s, the Urbano Monti map 1590s, these maps show the world free of snow. There's no snow anywhere. Antarctica is this big green populated bit with towns and beasts all the way around the azimuthal equidistant flat earth map that's in the middle in a 1590s map, a Urbano Monti map. And the map shows no ice anywhere. And I'll show you another collection in a little while when I get through these couple of images where there is no ice anywhere. So it would be really easy, okay, to be able to just walk across the Bering Straits. Now, I think also the maps show that there's been great geological changes with the maps, like Island California. Oregon used to be a giant lake. There's no Great Lakes in a certain point of time on the maps. Like literally since they've been mapping America, 1500s, there's a large period of time on hundreds of maps where there's no Great Lakes. What, did they just show up later? Well, yeah, maybe a giant mining operation. Yeah. So there's so
Martin,
many.
we can get more metaphysical and idea of the simulation and that reality is.
Mandela.
You read my mind.
Yeah,
Mandela,
well,
because we're seeing how like just now, like retroactively the maps changing from what we remember just 10 years ago.
Well, I was in the Merchant Navy. You mentioned me in archaeology was my background, but Merchant Navy was my background, guys. Grew up at sea. And as soon as I was old enough to get the sea, I got the sea and I stayed there. So what was you just on about?
Well, I was just talking about Mandela effect and how
Right. So yeah,
you talk about
so there are geographical changes in my lifetime. Okay,
like
because I used to go through
Australia.
that gap between Sicily and Italy. I think it's called the Messine Strait. Yeah, and it was just pure like close, and there was nothing going on. And now on the map, it's over here, and also Sicily seems to be wrongly orientated, and that goes to New Zealand. That's a lot further northeast than it used to be. It used to be a lot further down. Towards Australia. In my mind, when I was a kid, guys, it was south of Australia. Okay, not northeast of Australia in my mind. So that's weird. Because I used to pride myself on like studying like geography and atlases, like when I was a kid, and like some of the changes, I've shown Japan. It's completely differently orientated in other maps. It's like this way, and it's no longer near the Korean Peninsula at all. It's like in a completely different place, and there's just so many things. The orientation of South America.
Martin, maybe that's why all the NASA globes look different.
Yeah, right. That's all right. That's definitely what's going on. I can't believe anybody even bothers with any of that, and in this day and age, it's so like idiocracy. It's just, man, they shows you like some. Did you see a couple of weeks ago when they apparently sent up that going to go and rescue some astronauts? And that lady with all her hair sticking up, it looks like the Wicked Witch of the West. So they was like literally had what I call sky clappers. They'll stand there and watch it go up like this. There are people holding their phones as it was going up, and there's nothing on the phone. They're just not doing any of this. It's not happening, any of it. It's just a cash cow, keep everyone, and I think there's more going on than just permeating the globe myth. I think it's down deeper. I think that all of this money is being filtered to what I will call off-world, okay, or off this bit of the plane, to
I would add underworld too.
Underworld, definitely, 100%. That's where it's going, and they're getting ready because they know the people. Let me just tell you, the people who built these. Okay, they knew about reset. They did. They reinforced the bottom with granite, yeah? And then they put these levels on the building that if this place was, inundated with water, they could climb out of these, the boats and go into a higher level. All these buildings on the corner got these belfries. So I disclosed, or I just like an epiphany moment I posted a few years ago. I was like, yeah, they're landing balloons in them. And then I just done the research, looked into some pictures. I found them. Oh yeah, they're coupling up to the Statue of Liberty in LA. They're coupling up, and Seattle they're coupling up. They're just coming along and dropping off people, banging to the center of the town. And then it all unfolded. I found a load of evidence. This is exactly what was going on. But you've got to appreciate as well, this has been a hindered photograph. The sky has been completely wiped out, what we call vanilla skies, and they've even some of the bits here and here are just missing, and you find this with them all. So there's the hampering with all of our photographs of antiquity. There's no doubt about that. Again, America and its technology, but again, it's that Moorish feel. So I think that there's a lot of the architecture. I think there was Tartarians and Caucasians occupying America, and not the Native Americans at all. They don't build anything, and I'm not being horrible or facetious in any way, but the Caucasians definitely are the master builders of this place. They build anything that's sure, okay, everything. Just take a look around you, okay. It's definitely the case. So I think that was the case back then as well. Here's an example from an old alchemical book of grabbing energy out of the ether. Okay, so there's electrostatic charge. What Tesla said about it all. but they had a technology of teasing it out. You know, red mercury is tied into it, and it's all about resonance and star thoughts. So these are trippy. They're everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world. So what was happening in antiquity when they were apparently building these? We'll just run their version of events. So they say that they're bastions, they're defensive, and they're everywhere in the world. So what? Enemies of one another were all sharing their same military plans with one another, were they? No, that's not happening. So one peoples are building star forts everywhere in the world. Even in the middle of the Pacific, there's star forts. And they are sacred geometry. They are fractal geometry. They are super duper advanced. They are nesting technology. They nested in fractally. Whoever built these knew what this place was. They knew what this thing is, okay? They knew, and they were utilizing it, okay, with these star forts. So like I said, guys, look at that. These were not built for military purposes. The evidence shows that you can bomb these all day long with a cannonball, okay, and nothing will happen. An example, Fort Sumter. Fort Sumter, the balls soaked into the brickwork. Didn't even do anything to it, just soaked the balls in Fort Sumter. So you can't even budge these things, so they're nothing to do with the, the ballistics and technology of the time. So they're not that. But what we do notice is they are super advanced technologies involved in them. Some of them are on water courses, always somewhere near water. And not only that, underneath them as well, we've found. So there's something going on with water. So it could be to do with the structuring of the water. You know, with this weird takeover that happened with the Phoenicians, I think they've done something with the water. I think that's the whole paradigm of when you get christened and they do that, Domine Patri thing on your head with a cross and baptize you into the new Phoenician paradigm. They're structuring the water, doing a spell with you with the water. As you know, in this place, all is water, mostly, carbon, etc. But you can affect reality. The water can be changed. Water has memory, as we all know. In this field, and
Well,
we are
maybe
most
if Martin, maybe if this whole realm is one large chip, these are like transistors or semiconductors.
Yeah, I threw this out there last night. I was trying to work out, like, I was thinking, like, oh, well, what are the wandering stars then? Because I used to take photographs of Jupiter in what looked like its moons. And now, what's going on with all of that? What's these things up there? And then I thought what they looked like was if you were inside of a computer, right? And you get circuit boards with all them little bobbles underneath of welds, like loads of welds underneath, like stacks of welds underneath a circuit board, you see. So that could be like looking up at the stars. But I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well,
no,
I think
there's a correlation between the ground and what's going on with the star forts and them and chi energy and them above. There's a definite correlation, but I don't go with astrology and stuff. I don't really know enough about it, to be honest, to make a comment on whether or not the stars are dictating anything on the earthly realm. Again, I think all is mind. Again, with the placebo effect, the power of suggestion. If they tell you it's that way, you're going to think of your direction and make that a reality. This is how this thing works. They did it in 2020. This is happening. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, this is happening. And then guess what? It happened. So they just know the technology of this place. Look at this, how beautiful this architecture is. Onion domes, ceramics, and these resonators from the antique world of Tartaria, and just beautiful to look at and fills your soul as well. It affects your consciousness. When I used to go to these places, I've been to loads of communist countries back in the day. I used to go into these large Russian buildings and literally the feeling inside them was just, oh my God, I'm going to get a nosebleed. You could feel the building. You could feel the building. It was alive. Just super big, super oppressive as well. The one I remember rightly made me feel like I was going to just drop. It's like, wow, it's just sucking my energy out of me. I better get out of here quick. Buildings can do that to you. Suck your energy out. Yeah, living buildings can. So here's an example of Russia in the past. We think these, okay, mentioned the technology of the electromagnetic structure of this place, 4 angels, Mount Meru in the center. You'll see this over and over and over again repeated with these onion domes made of metal, conductive materials, copper, etc. And then you see these. You see this just near you, guys? This
Yeah.
thing here, this U
An
bend with the
antenna or
logo.
something.
Well, they're all over antiquity. They disappear like 1900 and they line the streets, but they can't be telegraphed because there's no wires on them. So they're not telegraphed. So what are they? Did they put up an infrastructure for something that didn't arrive? Or are these literally picking up atmospheric electricity? Like I said, you mentioned earlier, Barry, about post vapor canopy atmosphere. I definitely think it was more fluid for a couple of 100 years, and I definitely think there was more electromagnetics in the air and like thunderstorms, violent storms, because the record shows us that if you look into the events of the 1700s, for example, anomalous comet, 1744 comet, the Great Comet, if you like, and all of these strange astronomical events that happened in the 1700s, and something was different with the atmosphere. But I do think people could be nourished by the atmosphere in these times. But people were protecting themselves in a weird way, almost as if they can't go in the sunlight. We have pictures of, I'll give you an example, Virginia Beach, okay, and all of the Victorians, the Tartarians down on the beach, completely covered with hats on a boiling hot day in California. They can't even in Carolina, they can't even go in the sunlight. So the sunlight is no good for them. Now, white people can't really do the hot sun. They get burnt and they shrivel up, almost as if that it's not our sun and we weren't actually designed for this sun. Maybe arrivals come from underground places. Only today I seen a documentary, a little short documentary about two children that turned up in Britain back in the old days, and they were green coloured. Green coloured. They were taken to a local pub for questioning, where have you come from? And they said they came from a special place underground. Underground. Labs, escapees. So yeah, we could be, they could be doing that. Why not? They did it they show us in the, the alchemical record of homunculus, the breeding of human forms through an alchemical process. Golems through an alchemical process. They make life. So yeah, here's the structure of what they say sorry to switch and chop and change, but so I roll. Antenna, okay, and it's amplified. The chi energy is amplified. And then a resonator module. Some say that there is red mercury. That's an anomalous substance. I do know of its existence in the past because people used to put them in valve televisions, red mercury. So Schumann resonance in Chartres Cathedral is mind-blowing because, this is built by monks with copper chisels, apparently. Chartres Cathedral is a mind-blow to look into, guys, when you see how many anomalies in there. But they knew what this place was. They knew about what, like basically advanced quantum mechanics, if you like, in the medieval times. It's just, wow. Decoration or technology. So is it for aesthetics that they would do such a thing? Or is it for the technology of the time? Well, we think this. And a lot of these has got some ceramic tops on them. And ceramics, that's the top of a spark plug. It's that type of technology. Okay. Here's some evidence here of, excuse me, I just flipped through too far there. Let me just move you fellas to the top. This is wow. This is footage of Phnom Penh in Cambodia, and we've caught a temple with active AntiqueTech. I'm not actually sure if the volume is playing with it, but it gives off a crackling, whirring, weird sound. But you can see that it's still collecting charge off of its filaments in the modern day. And not only that, there's another film as well. You see the birds all flock around it in a spiral, like they're on the toroidal, that they're basically, everything, spins, everything goes into spirals. You can see the birds doing the same as they're getting on the chi path of the spiral, and they're just traveling up with it. You can see them doing it. It's beautiful. But so that just extra proof that this thing is AntiqueTech, living AntiqueTech, and still working. I've no doubts. And we got corroborating evidence that this was the case from photographs as well, of this thing being active. So that's in Cambodia, and that is AntiqueTech.
That's fantastic. I haven't seen that video before.
Yeah, there's a few fantastic videos out there to support this, believe me. So, excuse me. What am I looking at here? Oh, sorry, that's not part of it. So maps. Okay, this is the cosmography I mentioned earlier. So I think that when they left, because the Phoenicians are not here anymore, I'd recognize one if they were. But I think before they went, I think there was like a scorched earth policy, a bit like, you know, Hitler done with the Russians, because everywhere that they left, the Phoenicians, is dust. The Sahara Desert was not the Sahara Desert as little as 500 years ago. There was no desert anywhere in the world 500 years ago. I mean, Saudi Arabia is green and pleasant. The Fertile Crescent is green and pleasant. North Africa here, okay? This is Sicily. This is
That's
the Greek
interesting,
islands.
Martin, because Wilhelm Reich mentions that in his studies, that deserts are basically an emanation from deadly orgone energy.
Yeah, Wilhelm
Yeah,
Reich stuff is off the radar. I love that guy, you know. I love his work. I've looked into his
yeah. He
work
says
quite a bit.
deserts are not a natural, not supposed to be here on the garden planet.
Well, that makes no sense either, does it? And all of the ice as well, that's not showing either, and that makes sense too as well. So, excuse me, where's my map page going? Okay, so we can see the Iberian Peninsula here, and down here, Bavaria, just like Tartaria. And if you go on vibrational quality of words, Tata, it's the same word. So I think the Tatars are down here. So what we find is North Africa, you know, Morocco, Algeria, etc., are meant to be deserty places, okay, and not full of deciduous trees, green fields. And what you find is these beautiful Tartarian minareted styled fairy tale castles everywhere in North Africa. There's not any sign of any deserts anywhere. Here's a nice little butterfly map looking down, so like a flat earth map, like an azimuthal. Again, Antarctica, excuse me, the Arctic Circle. It doesn't show Hyperborean, but what it does show is a land mass giving support, being able to walk across the Bering Straits straight over to America anyway. Just all green, no ice is anywhere. And your Banamonte map is exactly the same. This huge expanse of green, the whole of Africa, green, a green boot of Arabia, which are now just deserts. So what I proposed is this, the technology. Again, this is a tribute. I got this from Reich's work. This is what, you know, put me onto the fields of organ technology, you know, when you talked about, you wrote a book on the orgasm, and anything with org is good for your organs. And in these church machines, they have organs, okay? And these give off a vibrational quality, which will make you feel super good. And then you'll feel like, whoa, God is great. God did this to me. But it's really the resonance of the all unbelievable organs. So what you get on top of the organs is rose windows, just like star forts, just like a plug, just like 100 things in antiquity that I could show you, a fasces. This thing here, this rose window, is a form of technology. It is a cymatic quality caught at a specific frequency. I can't tell you what that's set at, but you can find the image and it'll tell you what it's exactly set at. So they knew that in the building. And these organs are giving off a resonance, and they're going into the rose glass with lead quality, which is also a technology, and it's resonating just the most beautiful goose pimply vibes that you could possibly imagine on that cymatic frequency. And they all do it, these churches, ginormous, huge, overly big organs. So these buildings, living buildings, are a device. You know, they've, you know, now they turn them into warships where you go there and you detract your energy and your focus away from the job at hand. Okay, there's somatic churches. So as you can see, you've got somatic frequencies. We're all aware of this this science where, you know, you can have bits of sand on a board and you hit it with a violin string at a certain temperature. And bing! This beautiful like image of geometry shows up. It's like you're literally seeing sound. That's what this place is. You're seeing like literally sound. And church windows. Oh my God! Excuse me. I flipped too much. Church windows, exactly the same. They got cymatic frequencies in the front of churches. It's the same technology. They knew that. Resonant frequency generators. So that's what's really going on with church machines.
Well, it's interesting. So they have the cymatic representation in the glass, and then the light comes through that. So there's this
The
interrelationship
light as well.
between
Yeah.
the light and then the geometry of the sound. I mean, it's
Well,
just so awesome.
They replaced the lot of the stained glass, as they did with the bells. They replaced all of the bell technology in World War One and World War Two. Hitler and
Yes.
Stalin both had their hands on a lot of the bells because of specific metal that they were made with. And when they did the same with the rose windows, the original rose windows told the real story. They told the real story, guys, yeah? And they took them out and they replaced them in the 1850s, 1900s. Or there's only a few, you know, really old, like Westminster Cathedral, Worcester, and a few other ones have got original, you know, ancient glass windows. The rest, later editions, where they change the narrative, like they do with history. They can't leave it up there, you know, a picture of Jesus and he's a subordinate to some guy with a big turban. They're not going to have that on their church wall. But that is, you know, some of these, you know, depictions. So
there's a reason. I was just going to say, you know, in the alchemical sciences, there's a reason why they called the water element, which is the third tier of the etheric mechanism, is also called the sound ether. And of course, we know water is the conduit, as you already said, Martin. It, you know, carries information, and carries information in terms of resonance, which is why it was called the sound ether. So, yeah, when that light shines through those windows with the cymatic effects, you're literally getting downloads of information.
agreed, completely. I agree. That's exactly what I think is going on. But there's a dark side to this resonation technology anyway, as you know, through the narrative of Jericho. They went around the city banging drums, blowing trumpets, and they caused a resonation, you know, a frequency which toppled the walls of Jericho. Sound caused destruction. So there is a dark side to resonation technologies that can cause destruction. We call it, well, I call it Medusa-tech. And I attribute it to this little thing that you see all over antiquity, okay? The fasces, rods bound together. I got some, a nice little presentation for 5 minutes I can show you if you want to know more about the fasces in a little bit. But they definitely know about it because Congress, who was just acting exactly like the Romans, they have a fasces either side of the Congress chair, and they are opposite one another, not this way. So they're opposite one another. So what you find is the S's of Garland are also like the SS, are also opposing one another, like a mirror image, like a mirror image. And the reason is because this is designating that this is an electromagnetic technologies. You see it all over antiquity. I wrote a book, my first book is like literally covering, and I do believe that it was overwhelming evidence. Also, pillars, the Masonic pillars of Joachim and Bois, you see them everywhere, either side of the American flag here in Congress. And these two are part of the technology of chi spinning, amplifying chi technology. What you find, Jill, I found this years ago, was they were telling you that they were using electrical fasces to shoot down Zeppelins over Paris in the First World War. And then I found that's actually a picture of Mussolini that didn't come through. So I think this was our Tartarian life. I think that we would just step out of our front doors and just step onto a beautiful Swiss luxury electric train. And it would wish you off to do what you wanted to do, not necessarily giving your life away to, you know, to your energy to earning them money. So that's what it's about now, isn't it? It's all about the weird corporates. Also, weather manipulation. And obviously, that's a thing that is ongoing, part of the whole narrative. Well, they've been doing that, you know, it's an idea of a cloud maker here. And that was in late 1800s in a French magazine. They knew, you know, this was actually in the Paris Exposition as well, like geoengineering weather in the Great Exposition of Paris. So what they don't tell you with tube trains as well, the undergrounds, they'll say, oh, they was 25 miles an hour and everyone thought they'd suffocate. And they never had roofs on them. And then they'll tell you, oh, yeah, and they went straight to steam trains. But when you look into it, the actual narrative is they were pneumatic. They were pneumatic. They had a pneumatic train from Chicago to New York, guys. Got rid of it all.
Sense.
Oh, it's just insane that they just replace any of these good technologies with just not, well, you can see, they say geocracy, isn't it? They say geocracy nation. So balloons could carry as much as 8,000 people. 8,000 people on outings. Yeah, balloons were enormous and they were the transport of Tartaria. they had these huge expositions, which are just museums. Okay, you can't buy anything in an exposition, okay, or a World's Fair. They are the booty that they've got from the previous civilization, and it is in social engineering program where anyone who goes through the great expositions will be shown what the world is. So this is what the Africans look like, this is what the Australians look like, this is what the British look like, and this is, so they'll give you the realm in form of buildings and their peoples as well. They had indigenous peoples. They literally had a human farm in New York expositions of Filipino people in an enclosure like animals. Just insane. But so these huge hangars, you can think that they were built for the World's Fairs. I think that they were there already. I really do. Repurposed, replaced. And I think that they were giant hangars for the transport of the day, which was beautiful, clean, relaxing, safe, and balloon images. And this is Stockholm's exposition. They're a beautiful one. Make Tartaria great again when I see this picture. Absolutely fantastic architecture. And they're showing you the balloons of the day. It's a very steampunk feel to it, you know, the whole thing. So atmospheric energy collecting. So these are called aerostats. If I could just move the image over there, guys, for you. Okay. Aerostats. So what they would do is they would float these just knobbly bits again, air balloons high into the air, tethered to this grid work, and then they would catch atmospheric electricity, which we would put back down into this driver generator, etc., etc. Free energy of the day. And that is aerostat. And there's lots of evidence. I've got a couple of books which explain the principles of aerostat. The gathering of electricity, and these huge, beautiful spaces for these balloons. And the Hindenburg disaster, you know, made sure that nobody wanted to go on balloons again. It made it really unfavourable. But I've posted enough that was a psyop, you know, because there's at least 2 different disasters being filmed, because one of them's got a swastika on him, and the one that's burning hasn't. So which one is it really? So yeah, 8,000 people in this balloon carried over Paris back in the day. Incredible. And this is just an AI and, you know, version of what we think it was like. Ships, we think ships were in the sky. Okay, there's no difference between a plane is a ship. A plane's wings work on exactly the same principle as sails on a ship. They work exactly the same. So they're just ships of the air, and they know this. And I think that the balloons were like ships in the air. Oh my God, excuse me, guys. Let me just flip back through.
I mean, do you think we had floating cities?
Yes, I've got images of floating cities. I really do think we have floating cities. Aerostat again, another evidence of the book that they send this up. They gather usable electricity in a period. They tell us that we had no electricity. Why is it flicking through like that? It's a pain in the bummer. So yeah, you come out of your house, you go on your ship boat, and maybe this is a taxi, you even know, but it just takes you off onto your destination. And this is a glorious way. And this is why you see these in New Orleans, you see them all over the world, these anomalous wrought iron gantries. They were to, you know, leave to go to work or wherever you went of the day. Why is it doing that? Excuse me, everyone in chat, I won't do that again. So I think it's this, the fissures. It's the most important weapon of the antique world. It is rods of copper bound together, in this case with brass, and it creates a charge. Now, this is existing in the real world because it's the magnetron in your microwave oven. I'll show you a plan for that in a little bit. So the fissures was used by the fascists, where the term fascists arose from, is the fissures. And it was, if you look into it, and initially, they say in the Roman world, a weapon of execution. They had an axe on it called a labris, which they would chop people's heads off. But that makes no sense because the whole thing, you wouldn't be able to put your hands around it and even chop anything. So that makes no sense. So it does make sense from the decode that this thing is causing destruction. You see Romans coming out of a city, you know, and it's all in, you know, in flames and gone behind, and they just got like a bazooka over their shoulder, the fissures. Look what we just did. So this is another one of my questions, and I think this is what solidifies that they've been using fissures technologies for the destructions that we witness in the American city fires. This is Baltimore, okay, another city that was destroyed. You get absolutely fantastic Tartarian buildings in the background, but everything else is reduced to little stones. So let's have a think about that. So there's no artillery hit this. There's no firestorm or earthquake as such, but there has been buildings that have burned down, but no evidence really of any fire. I don't see any blackening. I really don't see any fire evidence. What you do see is little tiny bricklets. What would reduce a building that was this big, which is hard to knock down with a wrecking ball, to things that are little bricklets? And you see the same MO for San Francisco, for Chicago, for all of them. All of them.
Yeah, it's
This
like
one is
it's like
Detroit. Excuse me,
rubble
sorry,
everywhere, Martin. It's almost like they have
Boston.
those resonators can vibrate, so to where the stone just breaks apart.
Well, there's that narrative of Tesla had an earthquake machine. I got pictures of it, and they said that he cranked it up, and it just started, the building started to shake, and as he turned it up, things outside started to shake, and then it was like a minor earthquake in New York. The police turned up outside, apparently the narrative is, and they took the machine, stopped him. He said it was really dangerous. He was grateful in the narrative because he was. So there's a narrative of the earthquake machine, but it goes further back. I watched one foreign movie years ago where the soldiers of the French army had caused an earthquake by their drums. They had a line of soldiers all banging drums. Boom, 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 boom. The stones started to rattle, and they started an earthquake. So I think, even that sort of technology of a resonance kept on a specific frequency like that with drums could cause some sort of
during the early wars, the military was trained to break their cadence when crossing a bridge. You're probably aware of that, because if they maintained the same marching cadence, that repetitive vibration could actually collapse a bridge.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I covered that. I showed some pictures of collapsing bridges. Yeah, it's a really unusual phenomenon, that, isn't it? That they all have to not march, just different steps. So, yeah. So right. Boston's a mind blow, most of the city completely destroyed. It just arrives back again, all these buildings all over again, like nothing's ever happened again. Could be like a Mandela effect again, changing timelines again. We're just not on the same realm. It could be like the TVA or something. We're looking at other realms in these photographs. Who even knows? But one thing for sure is everyone is dressed in black. Each country gets its own uniform. The Mexicans, they get these little white things with a Mexican hat. The Chinese get these little Chinese outfits with their coolie hat. And the Europeans and the Americans, they have these bowler hats, or they have these top hats, and everyone is dressed in black. Why? Well, everyone is in mourning. This is why they say good morning. That culture started this good morning. So what exactly are we mourning? Well, we had a queen called Victoria. She was called Victoria because she was victorious. And the imposter realm that is ruling at the moment, her descendants of all of Europe, because the First World War and the Second World War, they're a bunch of troublemakers. They're not the original lineage whatsoever. They're just not. And it's curious to me that all American presidents, all of them, have to be a cousin to the Queen or King of England. Okay, so all of them. Bush is like a second cousin removed or something. And so they're all related. But more than that, they all have to show, okay, that they are descendants of Charlemagne the Great. Charlemagne the Great. Okay, so what, a first millennial French Arab origin monarchy or dynasty they have to be related to. So Trump, president, he has to be a president because he has to be related to Charlemagne, who is a Persian. Who's in charge exactly? It's a very, very weird thing, that, I find. So this is Boston, another city completely destroyed, but you've got to appreciate that the heat that has hit this has melted stone. And these giant things, stones of these buildings, were apparently brought there by horse and buggy, okay, and then lifted up to an extreme height, because apparently the whole of the antique world was built by horse and buggy. Whatever. So there's similarities between the American city fires and what happens on 9/11. Still never got to the bottom of it, but I definitely think some sort of fasces, electromagnetic, whatever, some people call it Jews, direct energy weapons were used. You see the same MO as you see on 9/11 what happened in California, in Paradise, for Maui. You see the same for Chicago fire, the Boston fire, the San Francisco fire. All of them have identical MOs. The trams of Hiroshima run the day after apparently a nuclear bomb's dropped, an atom bomb's dropped. The trams of Chicago kept running the day after the city got destroyed. The trams of San Francisco, electric trams, kept on running right the way through the burning and destruction of the city by the officials. So all of the infrastructure keeps on running. This city here, Chicago, goes up in a massive flames because there's a wider event just to the west called the Pshtiga event. The Pshtiga fire, a wildfire that comes across apparently, and it might be attributed to causing this fire. They say, yeah, there's a giant gasometer in the background. I wonder how the fire missed that. And also you find the same MO for Hiroshima as well as Dresden or Berlin as well is you do not see any crater holes anywhere in the World War II depictions for some reason, like there's no bombs being dropped, something else has happened. There's just a replicating MO, guys, and it's not fitting with what they're telling us, but what it is fitting with is this technology that I'm telling you about. And how could it be deployed? From the air. These places, when they were being built, they say there was no airplanes, but there were certainly balloons. And balloons, they were weapons. These German long arm feared by all of England in the First World War was a giant zeppelin that looked exactly like a fasces. And it came over Britain causing terror. Here it is in its action. You've got a beam, high energy beam, incinerating everything. No bombs, no bombs. You've got a laser beam here. Like 1915, guys. And it's the same MO as what you get for the Chicago fire, a city of that size. Do you know the ashes from Chicago landed in the Azores, mid-Atlantic? It was that big an event. It's a biblical event, guys. We should know more. And all American cities got the same. It's creepy as hell. What about this? It was in the newspapers as well. This Zeppelin brings death and destruction. You can see laser beams coming out and burning buildings. In 1914, they're using this technology. Here again, Calais, the Calais Hotel de Ville, the main hall, city hall, burnt by a Zeppelin with a beam coming out. Not bombs dropping, but fasces type technology. Here it is here in flames. So it's documented that they were doing that. Excuse me, I'll show you that in a minute. But it's definite same. You could see some of these. You have fireproof bushes and trees with these events. Yeah, it's always clear roads. All of the rubble's either cleared later for some reason. There's bulldozers coming through and cleaning it all up. I don't get that. It's like it's coming from directly above. And plants and trees are selective because if you look at some of the images of San Francisco, you have a completely incinerated building next to it. The trees are all flourishing. It makes zero sense. Same here. This is Paradise in California, and they're definitely doing the same in the modern day. Everything I tell you, nothing new is under the sun. So we got here a German city, Würzburg, near Frankfurt, and it has an electric train. And this, okay, is in the beginning of the 1900s. This was built in the 1800s. It's electric. It is an electric SkyTrain luxury. Look at the architecture in this place and how beautiful it all is. So that's where we were in the past. Beautiful electric trains. New York had electric trains. Got some awesome photographs of them. And so you've got to imagine they've got these big steel structures erected in the days of horse and cart. I'm wondering how they were pulling that off. Seems really impossible to my Brian, but my head. But there you go. So they come into these little electric stations. People come on and check the architecture of this place. It goes over the water, under the viaduct, which is probably a bit of the old world. And then all them giant Tartarian type buildings in the background. All there, nothing's being built, all in situ, all beautiful. Look at this town centre. Wow.
And you know what also, Martin? You're not seeing, well, you're starting to see more people there, but it's not like heavily populated.
Oh no, none of these places. And that's another part of the narrative as well, is there's a period in time around the 1850 period. I've got collection. You can literally just choose your destination, guys. Okay. I got collections of St. Petersburg, other cities where it's devoid of population. American Civil War. Have a look at like Richmond or photographs of Richmond or Charleston. There's just no people. The place looks like a nuclear bomb's hit it, and there's just no people in Charleston and Richmond. It's so creepy. Richmond's just blows my mind to think that there are buildings that big, okay? And they were saying that all of Richmond got destroyed by cannonballs of the Confederates, of the Union Army, whatever. So that's another psyop. I think, you know, the narrative for that. I'll stop sharing for a moment. There you go.
Wow, I love that last video. I want to transfer.
Oh, isn't it awesome? Isn't it awesome? So Sky Trains. So yeah,
I'd much rather be kicking it in that town, in that city, than like New York City, which many try to say is the greatest city on the planet, or Tokyo, or now, like if you go look at it, how far we've fallen, you know.
This is not sustainable, what we got going on now. You know, it's just where can you see it in another 20 years? In another 50 years, the way it's going now, this dystopic ideas, and everyone, you know, we're not even, you know, they're trying to strip everyone of their personal identity. I know what they're doing, and I've seen this different before. Okay, we could stand in our own power, but now, you know, with these new ideals of, oh, when you can just all eat grass, own nothing, and just be in eternal debt, is just, and that is for every single body. You know, the rich are going to be like not as rich anymore. That's for sure. And but like, it's not my world anyway. I won't even be here to care about it. So I do care about the children coming into the world of the dystopic future, though, guys. That does bug me. I don't want to bully and gaslight and know nothing about their reality and not being able to be who they really are. You know, that's you know, upsets me really when I think that people cut themselves short. They always like, they kill. I've had friends that have killed themselves off through self-loathing and not believing in themselves. And I'm like, no, I can see you. I can see you. There's potential in you. You know, just stick with it. You know, and this place just destroyed them. A few friends in that manner, and because they couldn't see that it was them, and it all is mind. You know, once you get that, you know, it can't be anything else. You're looking through your eyes. You know, all of this is processing in your mind, isn't it? It's not happening anywhere else, is it? You know, so I don't even think our minds, you know, keep memory as such. I think all memory is outside. I think, you know, they say Akashic records, don't they? But just all accessible in the fluid medium. Water holds memory. It's just stored there. You know, I've got answers where I've just grabbed it like that. And I'm like, how did I know that? Googling. It's like, yeah, I'm right. I can't even remembering that. But it's there, you know? So yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Definitely empower people.
Well, I think it's a matter of each individual deciding to leave the death cult, and we definitely live in a death cult. If you consider that science, when it took the turn away from alchemy a long time ago, and decided to eviscerate the reality that we are swimming in an etheric medium, and of course that etheric medium is exactly what you described, what they called in other civilizations, prana, chi, so forth. It's the mercury that the alchemists talk about. It's literally life itself. So we are now saying, well, we live in a realm devoid of life. And of course, that life is what animates our thoughts and everything else that becomes our ability to be co-creators. So a lot of folks are all on board for an extinction event. You know, the folks that are rolling up their sleeves and inundating themselves with all the poisons and things that are available. Just to, you know, in my profession, I have witnessed in my lifetime things that were once rare occurrences as far as diseases. Now they're rampant, they're epidemics. So there's definitely a coordinated extinction event going on. But I think the message that some of us are getting as well, that awareness of how things work and what this talk is all about, is your only protection, because then with that awareness, of course, you're going to tap into the things that actually give life rather than going down with the ship. And, that's a choice we all have. So, Martin, where can people find your work and maybe talk a little bit about your books and maybe especially your more recent one?
Yeah, the Holy Grail, the Great Reset. I definitely think that Klaus Schwab will come out with his one, because I get a blue banner for the Great Reset underneath my video and says, well, he come out with this in 2020. It was like, well, I had mine out a little bit before you, guy. So who come out with Great Reset first then, Schwabby baby? So there's that. So yeah, it's basically that was questioned. So anything and everything, everything that is in the paradigm that they tell us, I've questioned, and then I offer you where the evidence is for you to go and check it out for yourself and see if it's true. And in all of these cases, I don't mention anything unless it can be backed up by data points, so they can go off and check it for themselves to see if it's true, which it usually is. Because that's what I'm dealing with, is it's lovely to just have fantastical ideas and just throw them out, but not to sit there week after week and saying, this is my ideal and this is what's going on, guys. And I'm going to get all weird with you if you don't freaking believe it. Because that's not like forward thinking, I'm not settled now with what I know. I've definitely got a hack and I'm feeling really groovy about it, about this matrix. And, it's not, you can't completely detract, what I'm trying to say is you can't completely not be in the matrix, guys. Are we going to pay the bill and keep our roofs over our heads? Yeah. So we got to realize, that we do not vest our energy into that, but, just do it, move on, and then just think about you and what you want. And what I want is to get my message out to more and more people, because I definitely think I can do some good in this world and help if I can. And that's what I'm doing. So I got things going on. I'm on another hangout in a couple of weeks. I'm back over on Jason's channel on AntiqueTech, I think in 2 weeks. I'll be back over in America next year.
Nice.
Okay, I'm coming to LA in April to the Alien Convention.
Oh,
Don't freak out. I know you're thinking.
You're going to the big one, huh?
Yeah. There's a lot of there's David Childress is presenting, and Mike Barra, Kerry Cassidy, all that mob. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about Tartaria. I already did it. I did the San Francisco, the Las Vegas one, but via a Zoom call. And it was great. I smashed it. It was brilliant. And they were just like, yeah, well, can you come and talk about Tartaria? And are you okay about talking about flat Earth? And they want me to actually talk about extraterra, other lands beyond Antarctica, etc. So there's all that. So yeah, that's next year, and my Flatterday shows. So I've opened to started a new cooking show where I do truth bites. So I cook and I talk about truth, and I do my
Great.
Yeah, it's actually quite a hit. You'd be surprised, Barry. People, everybody loves food, don't they? And with the weird new YouTube algorithm, as you know, there's very little you can, just tiptoeing about, aren't we? I am to survive. I get like copyrighted just for saying the simplest, stupidest things all the time. So cooking seems to be passive. The algorithm actually loves it. So I'm cooking, and then I can sneak in all truths. That's why I call it truth bites. So I'm doing that. And anything
Well, I'm
else that I
glad to
can
see
get
that
done.
the British are taking up the cuisine skills, that probably that you learned from the Italians.
Well, no. What I'm doing, if it's got cooked in Wales, it no longer belongs to the Italians, Barry. It is Welsh. Okay, this is how this world
I
works.
call that appropriation myself, but that's okay.
Appropriation. Yeah. Yeah. I procure as I go, like if I'm in a war. So yeah, I love that. So
I'm just giving you a bad time.
Cooking up some razor clams over there.
yeah, so I was, because there's it's Armageddon's full on like in Britain, and everybody's like got faces like like it's happening, and everyone looks unhappy. I can't afford to live. I thought I would help with affordable, good, healthy, wholesome food, which it is, because I can just, these foods that I'm doing, I can just put together in no time at all. They're all really, really healthy ingredients, and it's something you can have for days and keeps. And it's just, so I'm just trying to help out in another way, whatever way I can, actually, especially times I had in Britain, and people are finding it really tricky. When they don't need it, you can live. You just got to know what to buy. And all of this, you know, I'm not into processed foods or any of that unhealthy stuff, guys. But I do like my tasty food, but I do like it fresh.
ERFO, ERFO, eat real food only. It's a simple motto to live
Yeah.
by. I
I
like
love
if people
fish.
just did that, they would be like so much disease would be gone from this planet. Just stop eating the processed food and grow your own
100%.
food. And you just have a little garden, you know, at least grow your own herbs and
I used to
um,
work in before my job before I did all of this YouTube was I was working in basically like home base in Britain.
uh
In the garden centre, B&Q it's called. I was there for like 6 years as
Okay.
the plant expert. So everyone would come
nice.
in, I like talk them out of like, no, don't cover your garden over with plastic and paviours because the water won't won't seep away and everything's becoming flooded because of it. So and you need to grow because food's going to run out. So I get people growing everything. But the seed stocks, do you know what? They wouldn't let us have any food stocks 4 years ago. I tried to go and get a load of seeds, and they had it cordoned off, so I
During
couldn't go and
COVID,
buy cucumbers and lettuces.
during the CV,
Yeah,
especially.
they wouldn't let you grow anything. You can buy your own,
Yeah.
and it's all like DuPont stuff anyway. It's like a first generation of them old stuff. Potatoes haven't tasted like potatoes that I used to. The potatoes that I used to grow up with were just absolutely fantastic. I can't seem to find anything that tasted like I did when I was a kid anymore. You know. And the additives, like God, America, I had the shock of my life when I went there, guys. You look at your additives on your foods, you got 10 times. I thought we were bad, but you got 10 times more additives than we got in our food. It's just like, what are they doing? And it all tastes yummy, but it's all like, neurotoxins, etc., just to like bump it up in your brain, isn't it? But no nutritional
That's
value.
because we have the Food and Death Administration to protect us here in America.
Well, there's that, isn't there? But it's a cash cow, isn't it? I noticed that was the one. My two defining memories of America were billboards. Okay. And the fact that billboards were all about like health. Okay. And it was like, whoa, they're telling people you got this. You could have cancer. Yeah.
Oh,
If you come to us, we could help you out.
it's
So it
the
was all
thing
like,
is, it's not
whoa.
about health; it's about illness.
Yeah, but
It's like,
yeah, it's about illness and they're telling people. But like, we know
yeah.
the way this place works, guys. If you focus on that, I used to have an auntie. Yeah, she used to read the medical journal, and she'd ring up my mother. She said, "Oh, I just read this in the medical journal. I definitely got it." And then she would literally get ill. She
Yeah.
was psychosomatically making herself ill with anything that she read. In this book, form of mental illness, obviously, but definitely works. I've had a cousin that had a phantom pregnancy, convinced herself, even had a scan. And then they had a scan towards the end. They said, this is empty. She bubbled out like that. She had water and looked like a pregnant woman, and there was nothing there. Because she wanted a baby that much, she made that
Wow.
happen. The power of the mind is so strong, guys. I've seen examples.
There's
Michael
some
Todd.
Martin. There's some Kamala bros that have done that, I believe, become
Oh, is
pregnant.
it? Come on. Oh, no, I'm not saying nothing. But I think, with illness and that, guys, it is about us. They tell you that you're going to get it. I watched this happen with my partner. They told her she
Oh,
was
the
going to have
placebo
something.
and the nocebo effect are very well
Yeah,
known. Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
what was the second thing you noticed in the States? Of all the fast food chains everywhere, or
No, we got that, yeah. No, the medical thing was the number one moneymaker.
uh,
Everything was aimed towards medicine and chemists and everything was about health and illness. And you're reading it all, and it's like, well, that's not good advice. And I can see what's going on here. And it seems to me that like, you've got your, the medical health service you have to pay for, etc., with the insurance, etc. You get your health insurance, don't you? Cure is free. But it seems like everything is geared towards that, and obviously the fast foods and all of that are making for the idiocracy state with everyone's getting like really fat. They are here too. It's Mr. Blobby here. Everyone is really, really overweight. And this new generation that come along for 25 years ago, the millennials, they've already had children. They're the COVIDians. They've already moved on. There's another generation. And they're little burger munchers too. And they're all just going with this unhealthy food. I very rarely now in Britain see people like they used to look. you know, healthy, just slim, normal looking, like people look, guys, you know. You just don't see it anymore. People are just like that much messed up by the food, and that's only been in the last 20 years since all of these burger chains and, you know, KFC and everything turns up. It wasn't around before that, so it is the culprit. We've all seen Super Size Me. It's definitely the
Yeah.
culprit. But then
When
that
when I
brings on
was
bad health.
I grew up in the 50s, and a chubby kid was non-existent. Everybody
Well,
was outside, wind blowing through the hair and
yeah,
wiry.
man.
You know, at
We
the
had one
beginning
fat
of our
kid in my
talk,
school.
yeah,
One
yeah.
fat kid, Kevin, and we all give him hell for it.
I
At the
heard the dude
beginning
that
of our
made.
talk, I'm
Go ahead.
Sorry, Mike.
I was just gonna
go
say, I
ahead,
heard the
Mike.
dude who made Super Size Me recently died.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, I think
Was it
that.
related to what happened to him? Because they said he irreparably, you know, injured himself. You know, he had
I think, yeah, I think you eat that much McDonald's in that short of time, you shorten your life, you shorten your lifespan,
yeah, liver
unlike the
damage.
lifespan of an average McDonald's burger, ironically.
Jesus, that was sad because he was all right. I liked him. He was all right.
Yeah, his second film was interesting too. He did a second one, Super
Seen
Size
it.
Me Too, about the possibility of making a healthy fast food restaurant. Is that even possible? And it was like an experiment. But
I
sorry, I didn't
always
mean to
wanted
cut you
that.
off, Bear. What were you gonna say?
No, you
Well,
just
I
got me
was
thinking.
just
Sorry, Barry.
no, that's okay. I was just going to relate back to my original comment when we started talking. You know, I mentioned we have a test and it would accurately measure the line of electrical resistance in the body and therefore tell you what to do as a practitioner and help people regain their health. What we were able to determine, the thing that threw off that line of resistance the most, which would affect health the most, is thoughts and emotions.
Yeah.
More than any possible thing that we could possibly put in our mouth as far as foodstuffs. So as a practitioner, the first thing I learned is that you really had to help people open their mind to other possibilities, because as long as they were in the same mantra, yeah, even alternative medicine has gone in the same direction. Rather than talking about wellness and you know what our real potential is,
Yeah.
we're talking about, we'll take this herb as an antioxidant and, you know, cut down on cancer. And so, you know, same box, maybe a few less side effects, is we call green allopathy. But yeah, it goes back to the not just a concept, but the reality that our thoughts are where things begin, and also that create all of our problems. You know, when we have belief systems based on nothing. But the good news in that is we can change our mind anytime we want.
We can. And that's the beauty of this. And that's what I've done. I've changed my mind.
Yeah.
Do you know, years ago, I did a hangout once and I met a guy in a festival early this year. Clive de Carl, he's a health guy in Britain. And he had these
We know of
devices, you
him.
know him?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had these electromagnetic devices, healing devices that people had in their homes in the 1930s. And he cranked them up and the sparks went between them. And it literally just wave it over your body and it just heals arthritis, rheumatism, any, you know, irritable bowel syndrome, anything. It just heals. And people had them in their homes until the 1930s. We didn't even need practitioners back then. It's mad how much backwards we've come.
The violet ray.
There was in my early career, I was exposed to a lot of those technologies. There was a Dr. Ruth in LA, and just doing phenomenal futuristic, well, maybe not futuristic, but things from the past that actually worked. And of course, every single one of them, including Reich himself, of course, were all persecuted for spreading that knowledge. So good news, it's coming back, but it's coming back even better.
Yeah,
Royal Rife, yeah, the whole
another
bunch.
one who was persecuted, and it's supposedly, if you believe in the Tesla story, all these guys end up like either like in drug addicts or alcoholics, alone, destitute in some shanty apartment. It is interesting. Well, hey, this has been a fantastic talk, Martin, as I knew it would be. I think you'd be a fun regular to have on, you know.
Just ask. I'm happy to come back.
Yeah, because I mean, we're just scratching the surface here. And like I opened this up with, once you start really just having the freedom to think for yourself and just, there we go.
Yeah, do you know your American flag I got here? Yeah, I had it off Jason. It says on there, made in China.
Of course.
That's a great microcosm of the macro right there, my friend.
Just put things into perspective.
Just like a lot of our cell towers, I'm finding out, are made in China, and that they're.
Listen, that was the thing I had a shock was I expected to go to America and see all American cars. I got a love for American cars, right? Hardly seen any. It was like 1 in 50 was an American. You know, the old school American cars, the old American shape. They were all like just Japanese or Toyotas or.
You got to
my
go to
God,
Cuba
like,
for that.
yeah,
Uh,
totally.
well, I will say
Believe
though,
it.
there is still a lot, like where we live, there's a lot of old school American vibes here. Like I know I have neighbors that have old 50s, Ford Chevy trucks,
Lush.
and you have
Camino,
that.
like
What's that?
Camino, a
Yeah, yeah.
Camino.
Yeah. And in the same way, because we still have a good a sensibility of a free market here, like, yeah,
Yeah.
we've got a lot of the fast food stuff, but we also have like really incredible organic, farm to
Oh,
table
listen,
stuff.
when I was in Texas living, I ate the healthiest stuff. Yeah. Raw
Yeah.
milk straight out of the cow,
Yep.
literally. Yeah. And I never even knew the feeling after. I've never had raw milk before, actually. And it was just, I felt fantastic after it. The water I was having as well was really good. And just the vegetables, although it was like really pricey compared to Britain, I got some really good produce. And the best food that I've ever ate in my life has been
Did
in
you go to
America.
Austin?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
Austin's got a killer food scene. Yeah, I
Austin
mean
was awesome.
that's the thing about US is it's like it's got the polarity of all polarities here. So you can find like the very worst, most unhealthy crap, and then you can find like the really most cutting edge, like what we do at Alfa Vedic, like doing things that are beyond where you're gonna find in most places in the world. So it really is a fascinating place for sure.
I love it.
Um,
I think it's brilliant.
um,
And I would love to do a part two, part three with you here, Martin. There's some things I wanted to get into today. I didn't
There's
want
so
to
much to
interrupt your
talk
flow
about,
too
Barry.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's such a wide topic. There's so many angles to this. It's just hundreds of different aspects that I could go on about. But I'll just give you a quick, synopsis what I'm up to.
Well, we'll be ready for you next time, and let's make it happen soon.
Yeah. Thanks everybody in chat. There's 460 odd of them.
Yeah, I
Happily
think we
chatting
we
away.
tapped over 500 at one point. That's a good chat for us, man. You brought the heat today.
Yeah, I brought my gang over. I said, come on over, let's show some love and support to the Alfa Vedic gang.
Great.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think this stuff, if anything, it just really ignites the imagination and allows us to not be so force-fed reality from academia and the realm of scientism, right? And just that's what Alfa Vedic's all about. We're all about like the individual journey to truth. And that's one powerful thing about the internet. It's like allowed us to all connect and allow you to do a lot of research from the comfort of your own home, and then it just expand that out as we sort of crowdsource this, right, as a community, which has been really cool to see in the Tartaria community. Is people all pitching in and like doing the groundwork too. I'll just say this, like there's a lot of folks that are like my friend Sam, and I know like there's some other YouTube channels where and I know you have, Martin. It's like literally hitting the pavement and going to these buildings and like investigating your own town and finding all this stuff, right? So
that's the beauty of it. Everyone, as soon as they see, they love doing that. I get so many emails like, Martin, you want to see in my town, man? It's mud flooded. It's Tartarias everywhere. It's like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
They get really excited to tell me.
So, Mike, for our merch section and the website, we're going to have to come out with our MTGA hats, I guess, make Tartaria great again.
Oh yeah, that's a meme. That is. I got a poster that says it make Tartaria great again, which I think is
since it was your idea, we'll give you a portion of the profits.
Also, I like the clothes and everything else. The food, the clothes, the aesthetics, and the beautiful clothes that they all wear. Because that's another thing as well, the materials. I can only wear cotton against my skin. I can't have polyesters and all of these things. And there's something going on. Linen is super good for you guys, electromagnetically.
I was actually wearing, this is a silk shirt I was wearing. I got a little
I love silk. Yeah, silk feels really good. Yeah, there's certain materials I just can't have on me.
Yeah,
It just,
natural polymers, right? I mean, natural threads and stuff. And like even just reading these old books I've been reading, like we're talking about, I was reading Wild, the Picture of Dorian Gray, and
yeah,
that
brilliant.
really is about the affluency of the English aristocracy. But everything was like all like your day, even I think people, and we talked about earlier, like the poor or not, it was like you still took great pride in your dress, right? Like you look at Bear and I talk about this all the time. The great fall of America was switching from baseball to football in terms of like meatheads with beer cans on their head,
Yeah.
heads sucking down
I
a
agree.
beer and like with like body paint all over them. And then you look at a baseball game from the Yankees, Mickey Mantle, 1950.
Hey,
Even
listen,
then, like all the men are wearing suits and they're like tailored.
I got a photograph I downloaded this morning of Babe Ruth handshaking
Oh, yeah,
President
great.
Harding, and his face is like this, like he can't stand him.
Oh, that's great.
It's a really good photograph. I can't even. President Harding. What did he just come in for one administration after Wilson? Was it?
Well, he must have been, well, or was he pre-Wilson?
No, well, Wilson was the First World War.
Yeah,
Woodrow
yeah. So
Wilson,
this is the 20s, right? So it goes
yeah.
Wilson and
No,
Harding.
1923 Harding, was
Yeah,
it?
then after Wilson is Harding, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
don't use
Before
too much.
Wilson, I think was Grover Cleveland, maybe, or was what's his name who was assassinated?
Um,
That was the late 18, that was 1890s, 18, yeah. There's a whole,
You mean
by the way, I
McKinley?
posted an interesting video about
McKinley, yeah, at
yeah,
an
McKinley.
exposition, he
Yeah.
got killed. Yeah,
There's an interesting gematria
And of
video
course,
I posted about Grover Cleveland and Trump, and there's like all the cyclical sort of thing that going on right now with all the numbers and the letters and how he's like it's just the cycle playing over again. That's on our Telegram if people want to check that out. Really
yeah, it's
interesting.
mind blowing some of
and
that, isn't it? It's just like,
Yeah.
how can that possibly be? It just shows you that this
Yeah.
place is just like mathematical by nature, a construct. It shows you that
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
it
script.
has to be.
It's
It
a
has to be.
reality script for sure.
Yeah, man, it is a script.
Yeah.
It's a reality. And what role are you going to play?
Well, we write our own script, right?
I'm the master of I'm the architect of my reality of my life. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And I'm just passing through anyway. So I'm not bothered by anything. Everyone can do them. I'm happy for it as well.
Well, awesome, brother. Bear, any final remarks here? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there again.
no, this has been great. I'm enjoying this talk immensely, and I can't wait to take up where we left off here today at a future date.
Sweet.
Everybody go support Martin's channel. If this is the first time that you've witnessed his work, you can go to his YouTube channel, Flat Earth British, at Martin Liedtke. The link is in the show notes below. Anywhere else that you'd like people to go to check out your work? I guess your books, I'll add your books to our book list. So you guys can go to alfavedic.com/book list and get Martin's books there. Anything else, Martin, before we
No, thank
sign
you.
off?
That's really super. Yeah, thanks for that intro write-up. That was really sweet. Thank you for that. So no, just
You
send
are
all love to
welcome.
the crowd. Everybody is in the chat there. They've been awesome people. Everyone's happy, Dig and everyone. So yeah, thanks for inviting me, guys. It's been awesome. I've been looking forward to this anyway.
Well, very good.
And thank you much.
We very much
So good.
enjoyed it, and we enjoy you being here in the realm. So keep up the good work and keep.
Yay!
Yeah, and like I said in the beginning, I've been watching your stuff since a long time ago,
Man,
and
that's mad. You've seen all what's been going on then over the years.
oh yeah. Well,
Oh,
I've seen your
man.
evolution, man. Like,
Yeah.
and it's been cool to see. It's like once again, I think when we really start to uncover this stuff, we learn more about ourselves than anything else.
We do. I'm nothing like I was years ago, Mike. Honestly, I can't even look at me years ago. I seem like I don't know anything about anything. It's like
I think we all can relate to that, my friend.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
I
And
wish I could
it
keep
never ends. It never ends. As long as you're here, you're always gonna.
Yeah, it's a
Hopefully,
schoolroom, all
keep
right,
up.
guys.
Yeah, it is.
We're going to
Yeah.
learn a lot more. Imagine what else we're going to learn in the next 10 years. I'm rather excited about the changes and everything that's happening with Awakening. I'm really excited about it, guys. I'd
So
love
are
to
we.
see the way this is
Absolutely.
going to play out. People are good, essentially, and they get this. This is
Yeah.
awesome. Yes.
Beautiful, brother.
Make Tartaria great again.
Yeah,
man.
that shirt's
T-shirts.
getting made. That shirt is getting made. I can see the graphics now.
I have got a T-shirt that says "Make Tartaria Great Again."
That's
Oh,
beautiful.
with a star thought on it.
Oh,
Hey,
that's
everybody
great.
in the chat, we love you. Remember, everybody, get outside, get your feet in the dirt, go plant something, go show Mother Nature some love. She'll show it right back. And yeah, go have a good time, right? And we'll see you next
Yeah.
week. Same bat time, same bat channel. We got Etienne de la Bochidos. I always butcher his name, next Thursday. And we'll talk a bit about the recent selection and the importance of self-direction and self-governance. Love you guys. Take it
Yes.
easy. We'll see you next time.